Curious Calico here, checking in for another session of therapy. I do appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Today I'd like to pose yet another quick question, as well as share my own personal thoughts pertaining to the question itself. To be honest, it's probably best to start this particular message off with a myriad of questions, just to be fair to any of the viewers currently not so familiar with the term Love Jones. Now, for those of you who immediately caught the Love Jones reference, it's safe to say you're already quite familiar with this romantic love story, often described as a hip-hop version of When Harry Met Sally, which I can honestly say I've never seen. Nonetheless, getting back to Love Jones the film, a short synopsis on the cover states, "Get together, fall apart, start over." Now, although these 6 words do tell the whole story, I would still like to provide just a few more details about this film before we dive directly into the main topic itself. The film Love Jones stars Larenz Tate, who has also appeared in Why Do Fools Fall in Love, Menace to Society, as well as Dead Presidents, and Nia Long, who has also appeared in Soul Food, Friday, and Boys in the Hood. They're portrayed as 2 confused lovebirds who discover that you can never underestimate the power of a Love Jones. She's a beautiful photographer, he's a sweet-talking writer, and when they get together, modern-day romance will never be the same. Now, even with the information previously shared, I can still hear some of you out there saying, okay, aside from the name of a popular romance film compared to When Harry Met Sally, what exactly is a Love Jones? That is a fair question, and I'll be happy to address it, with the last bit of information I plan on grabbing from the movie case itself. The back of the movie provides a definition for Love Jones, and it states the following. Love Jones, a noun, is a strong, overwhelming desire for someone. So up until this point, a brief description of the film Love Jones has been provided, along with the formal definition of the term itself. But there's still one more question to tackle before we address the main question that's brought us here today. And that question is, what is the Love Jones generation? Many would agree it would definitely be putting the cart before the horse if we attempted to find out what happened to a generation before we took the time to identify the generation itself. In other words, what characteristics might help someone determine if they're possibly included in this previously mentioned Love Jones generation? Now, before going any further, I'd like to take this time to clarify the thoughts I share are my personal beliefs, which come from a gathering of experiences and observations in my life. I share them as my own way of connecting with other like-minded individuals. Everyone knows the rules of this game called life. We're all fully accountable for the choices that we make. I simply offer guidance and pose questions in hopes of keeping individuals more in touch with some of the realities of today's environment. But with that out the way, let's get back to these remaining questions. Who is the Love Jones generation, and what happened to them? Well, let's say you happen to be carrying out your normal day-to-day activities, and for one reason or another, you walk past a group of individuals conversing and joking among one another. And out of nowhere, you hear one of them describe themselves as the blues in your left thigh. And you follow it up with trying to become the funk in your right. Well, you, my friend, can safely consider yourself a part of the Love Jones generation. Now, yes, obviously this particular film resonates with you for one reason or another. But more importantly, someone from the Love Jones generation enjoys this film from beginning to end because they can truly relate to the highs and lows of love depicted throughout the entire film. Without question, we better understood the pride involved with actually being the type of mate you were searching for. And that perspective right there is a major difference, in my humble opinion, between the Love Jones generation and the generation we see today. The Love Jones generation is not so quick to buy into all of the overt, hyper-romantic propaganda thrown at us today. Displaying the modern view of love in more of an assembly line type of manner, manufactured, packaged, and delivered to the highest bidder. A man is only portrayed as relevant if he has endless finances and resources to provide. No consideration given for whether the man has any type of culture, honor, or sense of purpose. While many women continue to receive anything they desire, from the steady climbing number of beta male simps in the world, despite never bringing anything to the table, nor making the time to groom themselves to ever be of value to anyone. That's right, receiving all of the traditional benefits without fulfilling any of the traditional requirements. These ridiculous fallacies, still heavily enforced in our Western society today, may have possibly contributed to the decline of the Love Jones generation, which was a time when it appeared men and women placed more value in finding that special person we could peacefully grow old with, and more importantly, understood the hard work and sacrifice required to keep that special person once you finally found them. These couples of the past contained individuals who truly enjoyed being there for one another, minus all of the unrealistic expectations and this delusional sense of entitlement we so often see today. Ego was still around, but couples had a tendency to push it aside for their overall endgame. Generational wealth. The Love Jones generation seemed to have a better understanding of the consequences that may later occur in life if you fail to take the time to properly develop your non-sexual companionship, also referred to as non-sexual attention by some. Once properly developed, not only did you fully grasp the importance of this companionship, you fully understood how this non-sexual companionship dramatically increased your market value. And now you brought much more to the table, raising the bar, expanding your options during the courting and vetting stages of your life, standing firmly on your prerequisites and holding to your frame against all tests, until you eventually discover and begin to further advance with that soulmate or helpmate, if you will, whom not only appreciates, but also gladly reciprocates the value you bring into each other's lives. As a unit still continuing to improve and achieve, only this time with much more opportunity at your disposal, as you both effortlessly become a legendary power couple. Unfortunately, in our world today, it just seems like individuals prefer to gravitate more to the two can play that game type of mentality. Another very entertaining film starring Vivica A. Fox and Morris Chestnut, but just keeping things 100, I can see where this type of film possibly causes more harm than good as far as the end game is concerned, especially when viewed by an impressionable individual still very unsure of their own personal identity. The film Two Can Play That Game, originally released in 2001, focused more heavily on showing folks how to run game and manipulate others before others had a chance to take advantage of you. Overall, feeding into the stereotype everyone in the dating game is all about using people and playing mind games. Again, to each his own, but me personally, I have no interest in the I gotta get you before you get me type of dynamic. If I can't trust you or your overall intentions, then I don't need to be around you. End of discussion. Still, I do understand this is solely my view on the matter, and I, like many others, have definitely noticed the increased interest in videos discussing game and other types of dating techniques. So it's safe to say which route most folks have chosen, which is completely understandable, especially considering the hookup culture so heavily promoted today. And those of us in the Love Jones generation already know, quite a bit of time has passed since the Love Jones was originally released in 1997. And no matter how much we miss those times of the past, they're gone forever and things will never quite be the same. This is a reality that's very beneficial the sooner it has been accepted. I say this because once you accept and move on from this truth, you no longer run the risk of being burdened by any circumstances outside of your control. Curious, what do you mean by this? Many a times in life we tend to forget the basics or simply lose respect for the basics. I was taking in some YouTube content earlier and I stumbled across a video outlining Briffault's Law. It highlighted the fact that all relationships are transactional. The video also perfectly describes relationships as ongoing and repeated interactions with continuous mutual benefits, highlighting a harsh reality that many refuse to accept. Once there's no longer a valid mutual benefit, the relationship at that point has no purpose. Men must always be in position to protect and provide, and women must always be in position to support and nurture. These are our core principles, and performing in any manner outside of such, whether we like it or not, clearly goes against our human nature. Now, to many of us, this seems quite practical and easy enough to comprehend, especially to those of us still interested in later building a life with someone. But if that's true, why does it seem like things only appear to be getting worse as far as the structure of family and relationships overall are concerned? Today's generation has made it clear it's much more profitable to keep women focused on all of the privileges in life rather than any of the responsibilities. Again, I ask, what happened to the Love Jones generation? Well, these are my thoughts. We are still around, but we do tend to keep to ourselves. Not because we don't enjoy a smooth jazz performance or an occasional reggae concert. Although it is still possible, in today's society there appears to be very few people still out on the scene and legitimately available who actually appreciate an individual for the internal values they possess rather than the external values they may provide. During the Love Jones generation, we cared more about the things that made an individual who they were and focused less on the things that made someone what they were. Status mattered back in the day, but it didn't outweigh the inner qualities of a person. As a society back then, we just seemed to have a better sense of self-purpose. Not only were the expectations crystal clear, so were the consequences. And unfortunately, one of the consequences we tend to shy away from today is shame. I mean no harm when I say this, but there appears to be almost no shame in the standards when you truly examine the majority of society today. Of course, there's always going to be exceptions, but I would rather spend my time on the rule. Many people who often fall short of achieving the things they've always desired typically are defeated by their feelings, as well as their inability to properly harness their emotions. So how do we minimize the possibility of this occurring? Again, these are just my thoughts, but to start things off, always keep things honest, and under all circumstances, hold frame. Be honest about what you want, be honest about what you're willing to do. By doing so, all expectation and boundaries are discussed from the very beginning. And once common ground is reached, anyone later falling short of the agreement does so, fully understanding the consequences. But more importantly, this upfront heart-to-heart discussion ensures both of you are on the same page and share the same beliefs. You both understand the importance of this solidarity against all odds and by any means necessary. Full cooperation in its purest form. You hold no reservations in one another because doing so only reveals reservations in yourself. Either remain on code or politely keep it pushing. No need to run the risk of wasting valuable time in situations where the juice is simply not worth the squeeze. And this brings me to my final point. In this day and age where both genders tend to be much more aware of the other's true nature, in terms of the way we process our thoughts and emotions, as well as the way we communicate our true desires. Be sure you've allowed yourself a sufficient amount of time to fully comprehend who you really are, here now in the present, and where you envision yourself in the future, before you even entertain the thought of inviting someone to join you. Once you've taken a sufficient amount of time to fully understand your purpose in life, you not only know exactly where you're going, you know exactly what is required to get you there. Going forward in life, any person with a different vision or lack of respect for yours is simply of no use to you. This ability to quickly filter the intentions of others will not only save you time, hopefully this screening process helps to also mitigate any negative energy in your life. By keeping true to your purpose, you generally don't have time to entertain people who choose to remain in their own chaos and only seem satisfied when complaining about it, rather than focusing on any of the changes or solutions they could actually help bring to fruition. What would happen if everyone decided to just be authentic going forward, not only with their partners, but also with themselves? What would happen if everyone suddenly remembered why we actually need each other? What would happen if everyone out there at some point in their lives received that glorious opportunity to be the blues in someone's left thigh, trying to become the funk in their right? With that said, thanks again for checking in. If you found this content useful, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you don't mind, please leave your comments below and let me know if you have any suggestions for improving this channel. Until the next time, remain curious.